Hello, it is I, the YouTuber, the content creator, and I'm here to talk to you guys about a very controversial topic. You probably already know what it is because like the last couple of videos have been pretty much about the same thing. Yeah, it's about climate change again. Who would have guessed? Now just be quiet, okay? Look, listen, but shut up for a second. This one is going to be about a politician that has said something that he probably shouldn't have said about climate change based off of a article written in the Australian. Very peer-reviewed. So yeah, I'll roll the intro and let's get started. Okay, so if you don't know who this is, then you're one of the lucky few. That is Barnaby Joyce, an Australian politician who was a National Party leader in 2016 to 2018, and who was the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia from 2016 to 2017. And this is what he had to say about climate change. Yikes. Yeah, let me just reiterate for a second. He's not a scientist. He's a politician. Now, the fact that people like this believe that human-induced climate change is not an immediate issue that needs attention confuses me. You know, it baffles me that people like this are in charge of helping run the country. How have you survived this long? So Barnaby Joyce made a long and winded Facebook post basically stating that it is pointless to stop climate change as it is inevitable, as geology has always shown. Now look, that's an understandable standpoint, okay? I get it. It is pointless to stop climate change. You're not wrong. We can't stop climate change. That's an obvious conclusion. It's a natural phenomenon. What we can do is we can mitigate or lessen our impact on the climate. So we can mitigate human-induced climate change, not stop climate change itself. Two different things. Get that through your head. So Barnaby Joyce's Facebook post was the product of a New Zealand lecturer in geology called David Shelley. Okay, and what he had to say was that we are expecting the next little ice age in the next millennia or so, and that sea levels have been rising for thousands of years without the help of humans. So, my problem with that is that, yes, sea levels have been rising. You know, climate change is natural. The climate will change. It will get hot and cold. Ice caps will melt naturally, but that's over time. What he doesn't say is that the rate at which these sea levels are rising are increasing a lot faster than previous records have shown. Big difference. Secondly, understand his standpoint. You know, the little ice age in the next millennia, probably. Who knows? Okay, we can't 100% say for certain what's going to happen in the next 1,000 years. But what we can do is look at the past to determine or create a hypothesis or theorize a future based off of trends that happened in the past, and if these trends will continue to increase or decrease or stabilize or whatever these trends are going to do. And let me tell you here and now that the global climate temperature has been rising faster than the last 2,000 years. Now this was based off of a recent study published in a well-known journal, Nature. It was also published in Nature Geoscience, two well-known journals, peer-reviewed journals. Okay, and what this study deduced was that the 20th century was the warmest period on Earth ever. In fact, what they found was that 98% of the Earth's surface around the world reached an all-time high at the same time. The last 2,000 years, it's crazy. Now, we're all familiar with the term, or possibly heard of, the Little Ice Age. You know, where it's colder around the world, generally colder. Or maybe the less known medieval warm period. Same concept. These two terms are quite popular among climate deniers. Barnaby Joyce seems to think that he would rather burn to death than freeze to death. Look, if I had an option, I think I'd rather freeze. Because at least it's peaceful. But look, we're all entitled to our own opinion, okay? Unless that opinion is idiotic, such as that one. But the study I mentioned earlier looked at the Little Ice Age and the medieval warming period and found, using 6 different statistical methods, that's a lot. They deduced that the Little Ice Age and the medieval warming period occurred at different regions at different times with varying temperature gradients. Okay, so the notion that the Little Ice Age is a worldwide cooling period is complete bollocks. It is not true. In fact, it makes sense. Because how can a natural phenomenon occur worldwide when every single country on the planet has varying temperatures and different regions, or different biospheres, I guess you could say? Well, when you compare that with modern climate change, you know, anthropogenic climate change, then you'll start to see that there has been, or is a continuing trend, that the entire planet, or its surface, I should say, the entire Earth's surface is warming at the same time. This is because of excess CO2 in the atmosphere and greenhouse gas emissions basically blanketing the atmosphere and trapping in excess heat. Now, for those of you that are still on the fence about climate change, or don't know what to think, or, you know, more veering towards climate change isn't necessarily a real threat, let me riddle you this, okay? Ocean acidification. Basically, the pH of the ocean. Okay? The ocean, or any type of body of water, requires a certain pH index in order for species to survive within that body of water. Becomes too acidic, nothing's going to survive. Becomes too basic, not a lot of things are going to survive. Ocean acidification is the acidification of the ocean. How does this occur? By an excess uptake of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Now, the ocean takes up an excess of 30 to 40% CO2 from human-induced CO2. You guessed it. Now, what this means is that 30 to 40% doesn't necessarily have to happen. Why? Because we can mitigate the amount of carbon dioxide we are pumping into the atmosphere, and therefore mitigating the amount taken up by the ocean. Direct cause of anthropogenic or human-induced climate change. So if you're still on the fence about it, think about that for a second, because ocean acidification is not good for anyone. What I'm trying to get at is that human-induced climate change, or the effects of people on the climate, is an immediate threat. It is a problem we need to face as a species. And this isn't me just preaching nonsense. This is a matter of survival if you want future generations, or if you want this planet to remain, a nice place, because it is. The Earth is awesome. It's an awesome place to be on, okay? Barnaby Joyce isn't the only politician that's kind of on the fence or a climate denier. We've got a lot of politicians worldwide and in Australia that basically say that climate change is a bunch of horse. You're gonna have people like that, But when you look at the evidence, and the evidence suggests that 97% of scientists are inclined to believe or produce data that directly reflects the effects of human-induced climate change on the planet, and they all point to the same conclusion, then you kind of think, okay, maybe this is a problem. Then you've got 3% of scientists that kind of just say, this is not a problem, this doesn't exist, this happens naturally. That part is true. Climate change happens naturally, but what we're doing is not natural to the environment. So yeah, climate science is kind of a win-lose battle. That's the end of this video. I hope you liked it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, because it truly helps me out. And share it around if you can. It helps me a bunch, and it gets people interested. And make sure you force them to subscribe, even if you have to hold them at gunpoint, or I don't know, don't feed them for a week. Yeah, make sure you check out Cape Clasp as well. These guys are an awesome organization. And educate, don't eradicate. And I'll see you next Wednesday for another video. Bye.